This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Viterbi Voices. My name is Paul Ledesma, Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering. I'm one of your co-hosts.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Powis, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
And joining us is a brand new person to our podcast. I believe this is your first time in the podcast. Is that right, Olivia?
Yes, it is.
All right. Introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are and where you're from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia. I'm also a senior, and I'm studying environmental engineering, and I'm from the Bay Area, and I'm also doing a progressive degree program in green technologies, which is what this podcast is about.
Cool. So why don't you give everybody a quick primer on what the progressive degree program is all about?
Yeah, so progressive degree programs are master's programs that USC has where you can get your master's degree in as much as one extra year or as little as you can finish it in 4 years or one extra semester. And they have a lot of different programs within Viterbi for it. Mine is in green technologies, and I interview two other people in two different programs, which you'll hear about in a bit.
Yeah, to clarify, the progressive degree program is an accelerated master's degree program where you can get your master's degree in reduced time, which is typically 1 year. But as you can tell from Olivia's expression, everybody does something slightly different. It's very individual. It's not like, oh, I'm going to pick the shorter program. Oh, I'm going to pick the longer program. It's very individual to you and how you kind of mix and match your undergraduate programs with your graduate programs, because you could do an undergraduate program in one area and a graduate program in another. It's all very individual. There isn't one exact plan to that. Progressive degree is a great option for students going on a master's degree. So who did you interview for this? And we're discussing their individual experiences with progressive degree. Is that right?
Yes, so I interviewed my friend Irene, who's getting her PDP in biomedical engineering, and my friend Frankie, who's is in data analytics. So we're all kind of different and have very different experiences with our timeline.
And what were their undergraduate degrees?
Irene's was also in biomedical engineering, and Frankie's was in industrial systems engineering.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we get out of the way and hand it over to you to talk a little bit more about progressive degree, and we'll see you all on the back end.
Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be chatting with Irene and Frankie about progressive degree programs. So Frankie and Irene, do you guys just want to introduce yourself really quickly? Like your name, hometown, and what your undergraduate degree is, and then what your PDP is in.
I'll go first. I'm Frankie. I'm originally from Bellevue, Washington, and I did my undergrad in industrial and systems engineering, and now I'm doing my master's degree in analytics.
Amazing. My name is Irene. I am a senior studying biomedical engineering, and I'm originally from Thousand Oaks. And I'm also doing my PDP master's degree in biomedical engineering.
Awesome. And I'll introduce myself as well. So my name is Olivia. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I'm a senior, and my undergraduate degree is in environmental engineering, and my progressive degree is in green technologies. So just kind of give a brief overview what a PDP is, because most of you might not know what that is. So it's a progressive degree program. It's basically a lot of USC majors have this. There's a ton of different programs within Viterbi. It allows you to get your master's degree in only one extra year of schooling. It's traditionally like 2 years or maybe a little more. And this is because a lot of your undergraduate classes will count towards credit for your master's degree. Like, for example, my program, it's typically 27 units for graduate, like for just a regular graduate program. But for me, it's only 18. So I'm able to do it in a much shorter timeline. So Frankie and Irene, do you guys kind of want to talk about like the timeline, like how you guys chose to do a PDP, how is the application process, like how long you're going to do it in, so if you're only staying one extra semester, one extra year, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I applied my junior year, I believe, junior spring, so right when the pandemic happened. So that was interesting. But the hardest part of the application process for me was deciding which PDP I wanted to do, because there are a lot of options. And I narrowed it down to engineering management or analytics, but chose to focus on analytics. I graduated in spring of 2021, and I'm going to be here for an extra year working on finishing up my master's degree.
Cool. So my journey was a little bit different from Frankie's. So I applied, I think, the spring of my junior year as well. And I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay within the biomedical field, since I am mainly interested in working still in medical devices or in pharmaceuticals. And for me, I like Liv was saying, it really gets to like decrease a lot of your units. And especially since my undergraduate degree is the same as my master's degree, the units ended up only being like 18 or 19. And for me, I'm planning to graduate in May of 2022, which is my undergraduate graduation time. And then maybe take like one extra summer class to just finish out that degree. So I feel like everyone's PDP timeline really varies based off of what your interests are and like how many classes you want to take for it and how many units you have available. So I'm kind of just front loading a lot of my stuff within my undergraduate courses as well.
That's awesome. Mine's kind of like in between. So I think to apply, you have to be at least 64 units, which is usually when you're a junior. So most people apply fall or spring of their junior year. And I applied, I think, kind of towards the end of the semester. And I chose green technologies because I'm pretty interested in sustainability and helping the environment. And I'd already it worked out kind of well because I had taken a graduate class to count for elective credit. But now that class it counts for my PDP. So I switched out to count for my PDP, and now I'm taking a different elective class. So I technically started taking classes my junior year, but I didn't really know I was going to be doing it yet. And then since my the PDP is pretty similar to my undergrad degree, I only have to do one extra semester. So this semester I am in 2 PDP classes or master's classes. And then I think I have one more in the spring. And then I want to say only 1 or 2 more classes. I should double check on that. I'm not positive, but figure that out eventually. So I'll graduate in December of 2022 with my master's. That's kind of, you can see like we all have kind of different timelines, but me and Irene's progressive degree is more similar to our undergrad, where Frankie's is a little bit different. So Frankie, you probably had to take a couple like extra classes than you might have otherwise, just because they're a little bit varying.
Well, yeah, I also, a lot of mine, I didn't have a lot of space to start taking classes in my undergrad. I took one senior year, but I really wanted to continue my minor. I didn't want to drop that. And so I didn't have a lot of space available.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't have a minor, so I had like a lot of room in my schedule. And that's how I think a lot of people will kind of be like, oh, do I want to do a progressive degree or do I want to do a minor? You can do both if you want to. It just kind of depends the timeline that you want to do with it and that sort of stuff. So I think we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but do you guys want to go into a bit what your program is, like the kind of classes you're taking, what your goal is with it?
Yeah, so for analytics, a lot of the classes are linear optimization based, focusing on working with data using Python, visualizing data, predicting trends, that sort of thing. And I, like in my past internships, I just really enjoyed working with data. So I had kind of discovered that that's what I wanted to do. And this was a great opportunity to give me more experience, because I did have some experience being in ISE, but this way I get to like truly dive in.
Yeah, that's interesting again, because I feel like yours is such like a narrow focus of like what your classes are and like it's for a specific goal. But for me, like since biomedical engineering is like such like a diverse topic, and when I applied, I just kind of wanted to learn more about the field, but didn't really know exactly what like I wanted to do. Our degree program is really interesting because out of the 19 units, 9 of them are from the BME curriculum. And then the rest of them, it's kind of like a make your own course schedule or focus. So you can take classes in the BME department, you can take classes in other engineering departments. You don't even need to take classes within Viterbi. So I am planning to take a couple of BME master's classes just to learn more about like imaging and like data and biomedical fields and like medical devices and stuff. But also like this semester, I'm taking a regulatory class that's in the pharmacy school actually. And it's the structure and management of clinical trials, which is something that is like related to medical devices, but not something that would be taught in Viterbi. So that's cool that I kind of get like another insight into that. And with that, I've also been able to take some like ISC classes. I've taken like engineering management just to kind of see how things work in industry from like or just like an overall perspective. So I've really liked my degree program because I've kind of been able to do a lot of like whatever I want and whatever sounds interesting to me. And my advisor, William, is kind of just saying like how PDP and master's degrees are really geared to like fit what you want to learn, which is something that like, I don't know about you guys, but some of my undergrad classes, I'm like, I don't want to take that, but I have to take that. So it's been cool to really like dial in on what sounds interesting to me and kind of get like a wide spread of knowledge of the field.
Yeah, I have like a similar experience, Irene, with my undergrad classes. While a lot of them are things that I'm interested in because I chose my major because I enjoy it, there's a lot of other stuff that I didn't necessarily want to take. But with my PDP, I had a lot more flexibility in choosing what I wanted to do. And a lot of people don't really know what a green technologies degree is in. And it's just super broad. It's just all about sustainability, different energy systems, learning how we can just make our society a lot more sustainable. So this semester, I'm in a construction practices class and a California coastal zone and science class. So it's in the environmental studies department, and I can also take classes in ISC and the architecture school, I believe, and even in like public policy. So I have a lot more flexibility to kind of explore my interests. And like what Irene was saying, your master's degree is stuff like you want to enjoy all your classes and you can kind of pick and choose, which is nice to have that flexibility. So with your guys' master's classes, how have you found they compare to your undergraduate classes? Like, do you think it's been tough being in the master's classes? Was it a big transition?
I think there is somewhat of a difference in terms of I think there's less like busy work assigned, and it's a lot more like project based, huge midterms that are worth a lot. And if there is homework, it definitely feels very like relevant. It doesn't feel like I'm doing this to turn it in. So yeah, I like that aspect of it.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, like I've only really taken like a couple of my master's classes so far, but for my very first one, like everyone, since it's like you're choosing to do extra school, like people are like paying attention in class. They like are more willing to work in like a group. And like, I don't know, I just feel like people are more engaged in the class, which makes more sense because I guess you're paying extra for it and you're choosing to do it. But I've found that has made like my class experience more enjoyable because I'm surrounded by people who are like passionate about the class or like is taking it like for whatever reason. Because I know sometimes in undergrad, like you look around, everyone's on the computer doing other things and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to pay attention either. But I feel like in the master's classes, you're really surrounded by people who are actively choosing to do this. And that has like just made a difference in like the atmosphere of the class.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I hadn't really thought about that until now, I guess. But there's definitely much more like discussion and engagement. Like one of my classes, it's probably like 15 of us. And like everyone always talks. And it almost feels more casual just because there's a very like casual, close relationship with your professor because they actually know everyone. And I think they're a little more interested in teaching to people who really want to be there. Not that you don't want to be there in your undergrad classes, but it's a different type of experience for sure. And I found that like what Frankie was saying, it's definitely a lot more project based and it's less busy work. It's not just like assignments to have assignments. It feels like with undergrad classes, sometimes it's kind of hard to see the purpose of some of your assignments just because there's a lot of them. Sometimes they're very time consuming or take a while. But your master's classes, it's like, oh, like this is really like to help me learn and like progress. And I think it's just, I honestly have found that my master's classes seem a little bit easier than my undergrad ones. And I think it's not necessarily the content is easier, but when you're interested in it, it makes you like much more, it makes it easier because you enjoy what you're doing. You're enjoying like sitting in lectures for a couple hours at a time, because that tends to be how the master's ones are. They're a lot longer and like once a week. But it's definitely a lot easier to like sit there and pay attention in class when everyone's engaged and people, you don't see everyone doing their like physics homework on the side and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And also like you really meet way different people, and especially in Viterbi, I think like the majors get so small by the time you're in like senior year, you've like sitting around the same people for like a couple of years. And then you take your master's classes and they're like, oh, I've been working in industry for like 5 years. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like we are clearly in very different stages of our life right now, but we still get to work on like group projects together. And just, I think like hearing about like their experience. And I mean, I haven't taken like the extra step of like networking with these people, but I also know some friends who have been like, oh, like, let me talk about your experience working with this company and whatever. And I think like you can make some good connections with people in my class. Like, I think right now there's someone in my regulatory class who's just doing like trying to get an extra degree, but she's been working in clinical trials for like 20, 30 years. And I'm like, wow, we're really at different stages of our lives. But it's awesome to talk to her during like a little like lunch break or whatever, and just get to know her a little more.
Yeah, I completely agree. And especially my major, my undergrad degree is like, there's probably 20 of us, and I've known them all since freshman year. And I love working with them. I love taking classes with them, but it's the same group of people. We all have a pretty similar undergraduate like educational experience. So being in classes with people who are a lot older than you, a lot different experiences. Like you were saying, like my construction class has people that have like worked in like the industry for like 10 years and just so many different experiences. And it's cool to like hear about them. And it also kind of will open like your eyes to different career paths that you might have not thought about. Cause like, oh, I had never really considered a career in construction, but I kind of like some of the stuff I'm doing in my construction practices class. I'm like, maybe I'll end up going into that field. Like you never know. And it just kind of opens your eyes and makes you think a lot more about your career path and what you want to do. Kind of on that same idea, how do you guys think that your progressive degrees are helping with your like career path, future career endeavors, where you want to go post grad?
For mine, it's directly related to the field that I want to do. So it's definitely helping me. I'm getting a lot of experience in working with data in different formats, and just in like different ways, whether it's like looking at historical data or like predicting future trends, and just so mine, because I'm planning on going into analytics, doing my PDP in analytics is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, and I guess for me, it kind of helped me in the fact where like I kind of am doing the same job I would do if I did or didn't have this degree. But personally for me, I did like an internship this past summer and I was like given a return offer, yay. But if you have like a master's degree like already, you'll usually go in at like a high level compared to if you don't, and that already comes with like the pay bump. So for me, like that's making the most direct difference in the fact that like instead of going in as a product engineer one at like this company, I'm going in as a product engineer two. And I think that my experience in my classes is like also going to directly translate to like what I'm doing at that company as well. But like within the structure, structurally, it also makes a difference.
Yeah, totally. I think just with, I always wanted to work in like sustainability, green energy, just working with climate change, like making our world more sustainable, all that type of thing. So this is really like exactly what I want to do. And it's giving me a lot of experience in that realm, just a lot of general stuff. And I think, like what Irene was saying, like you get paid more if you have a master's degree. It really gives you that edge when you're looking for jobs post grad. And for me too, I'm still not entirely sure what type of environmental field I want to work in when I graduate, whether it's water, like clean energy, that sort of thing. So having like one extra semester of like school kind of like pushes back going into my career a little bit and gives me a little more time to think about it and have more internship experiences. Like I have an internship right now and with really more towards water, which is great, but I might want to try another one next summer in the energy field or that sort of thing. And do you guys think when you're taking your master's classes, does it give you like more or less time to have like internships or get involved in research, or how has that impacted that for you?
I mean, you take less classes at a time. So I'm in 9 units right now, or 3 classes. So I do have a lot of free time if I want to look into doing like just other opportunities, whether that would be like enjoying LA while I'm still here, or like you have the opportunity to have more time doing research and internships during school.
Mm-hmm. And as for taking your like master's classes like concurrently with your undergrad, I think that like if you've made it that far in Viterbi, like you're 100% okay. And I think like, they really train us well and like putting us in difficult classes beforehand. And like there is like a GPA requirement for PDP. So I'm sure if you're over that threshold and you know what you want to do, I don't think that these classes feel that much different from an undergrad class beyond like what we talked about earlier. But like I didn't feel like I needed to drop any of my extracurriculars or like drop my research or anything. It just feels like an extra class. And I think that, the rest of your undergrad has prepared you to take a bunch of challenging classes at once.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way. Honestly, this semester like has probably been the most free time I've ever had, because 3 of my classes meet once a week, like later in the day, which 3-hour classes can get a little tiring. But then on the other hand, it gives you like more time to dedicate yourself to like research or internships and stuff. Because even classes that like meet twice a week, it's the same amount of physical time, but it's harder to do internships and like you can still get involved in research, but when you have class like 10 to 4 every day, because that's like a big chunk of your day, like you're not going to work from like 4 to 10 at night. I mean, you could, but like who wants to do that after being in class all day? So it definitely kind of opens up your schedule. And I totally agree with you, Irene, that like I felt very prepared for my master's classes. And like you said, I think the GPA requirement is a 3.2. And then I believe also if you have above a 3.5, then like part of the application process is having letters of recommendation. But if you have above a 3.5, you don't even need letters of recommendation. So they really know like USC and Viterbi wants you to succeed in your master's classes, and they're not going to throw you into programs where they think you're not going to do well. And that's why, and there's so many resources to it, Viterbi to make sure that you do well. But yeah, that's why USC offers progressive degrees, because they feel that your undergraduate classes have prepared you to get a graduate degree. And that's what I talked to my advisor about too, because she was saying how students who come from other schools, it's not that they're less prepared, but they haven't taken classes at USC. So they might run a lot differently than their undergraduate classes. So Viterbi knows like what you're capable of. And they're okay, like, we'll admit you to this program because we know you succeed and we know that you'll do well. So it's definitely super nice. And did you guys ever consider going to graduate school elsewhere, doing a more traditional graduate program, or kind of did you always want to go to grad school? What was your thoughts on that prior to applying for your PDP?
I wasn't always planning on going to grad school, but having the opportunity to take an extra year and not have to take the tests and stuff to get into grad school and go through like all the other application processes made it really appealing, especially because they had so many options that I was interested in that it was like, why would I look somewhere else if I have this great opportunity right here?
Mm-hmm. And like very similarly for me, like I just noticed I had a bunch of free units for senior year, and I was like, why not? Like, why would I not get like an extra degree with this? And it is just such a more streamlined process than having to actually apply to like a master's program. And I know like with COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to take the GRE, like I don't want to do anything. And so like I feel like PDP was just like sitting right there, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And it's like they make it really easy for you to apply and be able to like do it. And it is convenient, it saves you money. So I think it's like a great option.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if in case you don't already know, for those of you listening, to get into graduate school, most programs, all programs at other places, and USC too, if you're coming from not undergrad here, you need to take the GRE, which is just like a standardized test to see if you're prepared for graduate school. And I personally, after the college application process, was very over standardized exams and the thought of doing that was very unappealing and maybe enough to get me to not go to grad school altogether. So having such a streamlined process, and I'm sure you guys would probably agree too, the application was very easy. It's like submitting your transcripts, getting letters of recommendation if you have to, meeting with your advisors to prepare a course plan. It did not take me very long. I want to say maybe 20-30 minutes. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I want to say also though that I think like every program is different. I think like if you are a Viterbi student applying to a Viterbi PDP, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think I had to write anything. I don't remember, but I know if you want to do PDP within like other schools in Dornsife or like in Keck or whatever, like every program is different. And I think for some of those you do need to write something or like at least explain why you want to do it. But I know like the Viterbi to Viterbi process is like very chill.
Yeah, definitely. I'm speaking for Viterbi because that's the one that I applied for. But at USC, you can get a PDP in a different school. And I have someone in one of my classes actually who is doing their undergrad degree, I think was in real estate development. And now they're doing one in Viterbi. So you can kind of like mix and match and see. And I don't know how the application process is for the other schools, but it was definitely a great opportunity. I didn't really know if I would want to go to like graduate school, like post graduating with my undergrad and have to go through the application process again because that was a lot for college. I really didn't want to have to do that again. To have this opportunity like right in front of me and just to have a bunch of extra units. Like had I not been doing my PDP, I would have been in one class this semester and I would have had to like not had to fill my class or my schedule with other like classes like GEs and stuff, which could have been fun. But I also was like, might as well. Saves you money and just such a great opportunity. What do you think has been your guys' like favorite graduate class that you've taken so far? I know Irene, I don't know if you've taken too many, but Frankie, I think you've definitely been in a few.
I don't know. I think personally, I'm in ISE 529 right now, and that one's my favorite because I really like getting to work with Python, and we get to do a lot of that in that class. And it's a lot more like hands-on working with data. And some of my other ones I still enjoy. Like I have a class that's optimization. I do a lot of linear programming stuff, which I enjoy, but it's not as much like I like the hands-on like working with data. So.
Yeah, and I haven't taken too many yet, but honestly, like I really enjoyed taking like IC 515 with like engineering project management because I feel like especially within biomedical engineering, you really get like caught in like the weeds of the science and you're really learning about like how these specific things work like at like a device level. But then like taking a step back and being able to do class where it's like, oh, like this is how you have to plan things out for like projects that are like multi-level, multi-phase, have a budget, like, you know, because like that's like how things are in real life. Like it's not just you work on a device and then it magically gets on the market. So I think learning about that and using tools that I'd like never heard of before, like Microsoft Project, I was like, this is so cool. Like, is this what my manager does at work? Like, I have no idea. And it kind of made me interested in like learning more about like management of these projects as well, which is something like I never would have learned about without like PDP and being able to kind of diversify in the curriculum because that's not something that's taught in like the BME undergrad curriculum at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I think my favorite class, I'm in it right now because I've only done 3, but it's California Coastal Zone Science and Policy. So it's in the Environmental Studies department. And it's a nice change of pace from engineering because engineering can be a lot of math, a lot of like intense physics and science and stuff. And this one is a little more learning about different like coastal entities in California that deal with coastal policy and like the science behind it too. It's some stuff that I've already learned about climate change and everything, but I haven't really gotten the policy side of things yet, which is something that I've also been very interested in learning about. And it's been a super fun class, and everyone is always really engaged. And there's people in the environmental studies department. I think there's a few people actually in my same graduate degree program taking it. So it's been super cool, kind of a nice change of pace from just doing math all day. It's getting to learn about the California coast and all that fun stuff. So do you have any like piece of advice for people considering applying for progressive degrees, or just anything that any last thing that you would want to add to anyone considering it or kind of still wondering what exactly it is?
My advice is just to apply. If you eventually decide that you're not interested, then you just don't have to do it. But if you have any interest whatsoever, I think the best thing to do is apply and just like get more information about the different, if you're like torn between two majors, get some information about each of them, look at the course plans and stuff to see what type of classes you'd be taking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And kind of piggybacking off of Frankie as well, like I think you can switch if you have applied to a PDP in Viterbi, you can pretty easily switch your program based off of what. Yeah.
Yeah, I switched from engineering management. I decided like after I applied before my internship, and then I had an internship where I did a lot of work with data, and I was like, and emailed, and it was a process, but they let me switch. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like relatively flexible. It's kind of like the same idea as like when you're admitted into Viterbi undergrad, like you can go into any major or any Viterbi major. And I think it's kind of similar with PDP. It might be a little bit more of a process. But then my additional like note would be, because this is kind of a mistake that I made, make sure you're really keeping in good contact with your graduate advisor and your undergrad advisor, because sometimes like your undergrad advisor is like probably perfect, like knows everything about your undergraduate degree, but not a lot about your master's, and like vice versa. So I definitely accidentally like messed up my schedule a little bit because of like I like misunderstood what one was saying over the other. So it's really up to you to make sure that you're like getting the units for your master's and your undergrad, and making sure you're taking everything to like get it done on time. But it is a very easy thing to do, and I think the staff here is like super helpful for that. But just that part is like kind of on you, and make sure you don't accidentally mess it up, because I did. But it worked out in the end. I was able to work something out with my advisors. So yeah.
Nice. I know. I feel like for the Viterbi like undergraduate degrees, they pretty much structure out every class you're going to take every semester, and like there's a bit of flexibility and stuff, and like some people start like a little ahead with calculus and different science classes, but every class you're going to take is pretty much told to you. But with the PDPs, you kind of pick and choose your classes. So I remember like I was given a massive list of classes to choose from, and I was like, oh my God, like this hasn't happened to me before. I don't know what to do. It's a little bit overwhelming. So it is a little bit more on you. But like Irene said, it's completely doable. It's completely manageable. You just have to do it. I've also definitely emailed the wrong advisor about questions. Like I'll email my graduate advisor about undergrad classes, and she's like, I don't know, and like directs me to the right person. But also, like what Frankie said, it doesn't hurt to apply. Like you can just drop it if you want to. There's no fee to apply. Like even if you like take a class in it and you're like, oh, this isn't for me. Like if you had room in your schedule, like it's not going to hurt. It's still more experience, get to meet more people and explore other interests. And I think like what Irene and Frankie were saying, it's relatively easy to switch if it's within the same department. So I'm pretty sure my advisor told me, because I was between green technologies and just doing another degree in environmental engineering, and she was like, well, that would be an easy switch, but I think it might be a little harder if I tried to go to like computer science or something. And I think another note to add would be, if you got your undergrad, if you're doing your undergrad in like biomedical, environmental, whatever, and then you're like, oh, I kind of want to learn more about mechanical, do a PDP in it. A great way to kind of get exposure to both.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that there are some things like switching within the department is easier. But when I was switching to analytics, I needed to provide proof that I'd taken a course in Python before. So there's some, like if you do a PDP in computer science, like you need to have some coding experience. in order to be accepted into the program. So some of them do have requirements like that.
Mm-hmm. I think it really just depends, because I was kind of between the biomedical engineering one and product development, which is like within ISC. And I feel like my advisor was like, oh, that wouldn't be a big deal if you wanted to switch. I think it depends on what program you're in. But I also just want to reiterate what Liv was saying. Like, I'm pretty boring. Did my undergrad in DME, doing a master's in DME, but like your PDP is like a great opportunity to like specialize in like something else or explore something else, or like, you know, maybe you did mechanical and then you're like, oh, but I think like something in biomedical is interesting, could like go that way. Or like if you did your undergrad in biomedical and you're like, well, I really like my one EE class, like do yours in like your electrical engineering one. Like you aren't really like confined to what your undergrad was, you know? So I'd say test the waters. You can always switch if you want.
Yeah, definitely. And like Irene was saying too, because yours is BME, but you can take classes in other departments too. You have like your core ones, but then you're able to take like an ISE class and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of flexibility. Well, thank you so much, Irene and Frankie, for talking to me about our progressive degree programs. And I hope you all were able to learn a lot today.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Olivia. That was a really awesome interview. I was wondering what like drew you to want to do a progressive degree program?
Yeah, so I've always been a little bit interested in getting a master's degree, but I was kind of on the fence because like 2 or more extra years of schooling seemed like a lot, and the application process seemed like a lot because after college applications, as we know, it's a very long and grueling process, but having the option to do a progressive degree and stay here for me, only 1 extra semester, much shorter application, not have to take the GRE seemed very, very appealing. And I just applied and I got into it and I was like, sure, let's do this.
Yeah. And was there something that like, I'm sure students are thinking about like what they'd want to do their master's in, like how did you choose green technology?
Yeah, I chose green technologies because while my undergrad in environmental engineering it gave me a lot of background in sustainability and energy systems and stuff, I kind of wanted the more broad range of sustainable systems, how to make our society more sustainable. So with my progressive degree, I'm able to take classes in a lot different areas. Like I'm in a class based on policy. I'm in a construction management class. So I have a much more wide variety of options to choose from. So I kind of can broaden my education, which is really nice.
And what do you hope to do after you get your master's degree in green technologies?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm always pretty interested in sustainable energy. So I'm hoping to go into a field related to that. But also with taking all these different classes, maybe I'll find something that I'm a lot more interested in, like something having to deal with water or like ways to make water more sustainable. It's reverse osmosis. That was very specific, but stuff like that, you know.
All right, cool. Did you always know that you wanted a master's degree? Was it always the plan? Like, were you always like just ready to go? Like, I'm going to keep going to school for as long as I possibly can?
Yeah, definitely no. I'd always thought about it, but I was never like, I'm going to get a master's. Like it was never 100% sure, especially just think like I was saying earlier, thinking about having to like go through the process of applying to graduate school wasn't very appealing. So once I like found out what a progressive degree was, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is
progressive degree makes it a little bit easier on you. That's something I think we should clarify for our audience is that we get a number of questions sometimes from students in high school, or maybe they're transferring from another college. And they say, oh, I'd like to apply into the progressive degree program. And that's not something that you do. You once you become an undergraduate at USC, you have the option to apply for the progressive degree program as early as your junior year. And so you have to go through half of your coursework at USC. If you're a transfer student, it depends on when you transfer in, but once you've completed about half of your coursework, then you're eligible to apply to the progressive degree program. And it's not, as Olivia is alluding to here, it's not a challenging process like applying to college all over again. We make it as simple on you as possible. You don't need to take the GRE. You just fill out the application. You don't pay an application fee. And I think you need to get 1 letter of recommendation from a faculty member. That's essentially it. As long as you're doing well in your classes, you're good to go. So every program is also different too. It's not, I shouldn't say that it's not applying into the progressive degree program. It's applying to the master's program of what you're actually going to. So some programs might be more selective than others, depending on what you're going for. So that's that. All right. Well, very cool. Thank you very much, Olivia. I love the conversations. Good stuff with progressive degree. I think it's a great conversation because a lot of students are always looking forward to talking more about that and learning about their possible futures beyond undergrad.
Yep, thank you. It's definitely very interesting to hear from my friends too about their different experiences because my program is very different than theirs. So it's like, oh, fun.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.